when you're a musician, you get to play a lot of cool gigs. Like the time I got to play with legendary drummer Max Roach, or got to play at Carnegie Hall, or accompany John Lithgow at the Kennedy Center. Well, these stories, they're not those stories. No, these are the gigs that afterwards you think to yourself, do I still have time to pursue a career as a bathroom attendant? Gigs so humiliating that I've never told anyone. Well, until now. Now I tell you for your Gelber Giglet giggling pleasure. Like the time I played an 8-hour solo piano gig in a New Jersey country club. Now, to put it in context, when I do a bar or restaurant gig, that's usually 3 hours. A wedding reception, 4 hours. So an 8-hour gig, that's an absurdly long gig. But I'm a gig horse. I'll do doubles, I'll do triples. So when they called me to do the gig, I thought of the clubs on 52nd Street back in the day where the musicians had to play from 8 at night until 4 in the morning. And I said, well, if Charlie Parker can do it, then surely so can I. But New Jersey is not 52nd Street. So the kind of music that I do, standards, jazz, and ragtime, was not really the type of music they were looking for. But Bon Jovi? I don't really know any Bon Jovi, and certainly not enough to make it through 8 hours. So, I just stuck to what I knew, Gershwin and Cole Porter. But boy, when you do the doubles and triples, you get some breaks in between the gigs. And when you do a wedding reception, there's speeches. To play 8 hours straight to a hostile New Jersey audience? Well, it was tough. When I got to the last hour, my head hurt from exhaustion. My heart hurt from artistic rejection. And, well, my fingers tingled with incipient carpal tunnel syndrome. But at that moment, I spotted them. A group of older ladies at a table. World War II generation, the greatest generation. This gig was back at a time when many of those people were still walking the earth. And I knew I was playing the music of their youth. So when an older lady from that table got up and started to meander towards my piano, I thought to myself, oh, well maybe she will request some Irving Berlin. Or maybe she'll request some Glenn Miller. Well, she got up to the piano and she turned to me. Do you have to play so loud? Really, it's terrible, just awful. And then she waddled away. Well, I looked at the clock. There was still 20 minutes left on the gig. And I looked at the piano. And I closed the piano. And I went home. Well, not every gig humiliation is solo. Some gig humiliation requires a band leader. Like, there's a band leader I work with who is pliant to the wishes of the client, like dirty underwear sticks to a derriere. Whatever the client wants. The client gets, regardless of taste or feasibility. But the thing about that kind of attitude is it's actually very good business strategy, and he got a lot of good gigs. So when he called me for a Halloween gig, I jumped at it. It paid good money, it was with a great band, and it was at a club that I knew had a great piano. The only caveat was you had to get there early because they were going to dress you up in a Halloween costume. Well, that was fine by me because I had another gig after this one where they were requiring me to show up in a Halloween costume, and so this saved me the trouble of finding a Halloween costume. So why is this part of the Gelber gig humiliation video? Well, when I showed up, the first sign that something was amiss, they asked me to get my keyboard. I thought, well, why are you asking me to get my keyboard when there's a perfectly good piano here? But I didn't want to rock the boat. It was still a good gig, so I happened to keep a keyboard in my trunk of my car just for such emergencies. So I went and I fetched my keyboard, I brought it back, I set it up. And then maybe the second sign that something might be a little amiss was that they had costumed us all as matching aliens. But really, it only started to click when the band leader handed out a lead sheet to the Star Wars Cantina music. That's why they wanted the keyboard. You see, we weren't just playing the Star Wars Cantina music. We were only playing the Star Wars Cantina music over and over again on repeat for the next 4 hours. And as though the chasm between gig expectations and gig reality could not get any wider, as we were playing the Star Wars Cantina music, they started blaring house music from the speakers at twice the volume in the room as we were playing. Because, you see, we were not intended to be listened to. We were an animatronic attraction at a Disney-style haunted house. Well, at some point in mid-space age Dixieland, I stood up, declared mutiny, and said, if I have to play this fucking shit for the next 4 hours, I do not intend to do it sober. Who else needs a drink? Well, everyone raised their hand, including the band leader. Well, if some band leaders are acquiescent, others are arrogant. So I work with this one guy who's so confident, he makes the client think it's their privilege to hire him. And this kind of confidence is quite powerful and useful, but sometimes it leads to hubris, which leads to humiliation. Like the time I showed up to play a gig of his, and it turned out we were doing a concert of Noel Coward music. Now, you gotta understand that Noel Coward's music is sort of a mashup of Cole Porter and Gilbert and Sullivan. Not the thing that's most easily sight-read. And to make the matters more complicated, he had brought an orchestra, small one, but still, and he had not brought any band arrangements. So he just brought Xerox copies of the sheet music, the piano and vocal score. Now, fortunately, I had played some of this music behind a cabaret singer who specialized in doing Noel Coward music, and he had hired an opera singer who also knew the music. But we were like a raft of sonority swimming in a sea of cacophony. I mean, there were clams everywhere. I mean, this was a clams casino with a side of Manhattan chowder washed down with a clamato and beer. We were just being bombarded by wrong notes everywhere. And between each wretched rendition, God bless that band leader, he would get up to the microphone and he would strut with such confidence, and he would turn to them and say, "Ladies and gentlemen, that was our arrangement of Room with a View, a song Noel Coward composed while he was staying at the Gramercy Park Hotel just next door, looking out over the same view you saw coming into the auditorium." Well, of course, this was total bullshit because actually Noel Coward had composed the song in Hawaii when he was recuperating from an illness. But it mattered not at all, because he said this with such confidence that there was no doubting the veracity of his banter. "Next, ladies and gentlemen, we will like to do for you Noel Coward's hit, Mad Dogs and Englishmen, a song that Noel Coward composed while saving a pooch from the pound." Well, it went on like this until the end of the concert. I just kept going down like this, my head becoming one with the keys, trying to disappear, to dissolve, so that it would seem that there was only a player piano on the stage responsible for such discord. But you know, when we got to the end of the concert, I raised my head, I looked out over the audience, and amazingly, they gave us a standing ovation. Suddenly, my humiliation was no longer my own. It was the humiliation of humanity. For if these people, these well-dressed, well-heeled New York sophisticates who had paid money to see a Noel Coward concert could not tell the difference between a great performance and an abortion, well then no one should give a shit about what anybody thinks ever again. But seriously, did you like my video? If you liked my video, can you throw me a few Finskis to my PayPal account or my Venmo account? Seriously, my self-worth is dependent on the amount of money you send me. Please?